The 2025 NFL Draft looks to be pretty stacked at the tight end position. Obviously, we know about Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, who are both likely going to be first-round picks, but there is so much depth in this class with some impact players all throughout the board. One player who dominated down in Mobile and has a real chance to fly up draft boards is Miami tight end Elijah Arroyo. Arroyo dominated the one-on-ones in Mobile and shows some pretty incredible upside for the tight end position. Where does he rank in this class, and how highly could he hear his name called? That is what we will be going over in today's video. But hey guys, if you guys are new to the channel, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Also, be sure to check out my Patreon page, where for $5 a month, you guys will get exclusive access to my in-depth draft guide and big board, with over 500 prospects, scouting reports, and evaluations on all the players you guys need to know this draft cycle. You'll be able to find all of my notes, stats, and combine and pro day numbers to help you be successful this draft cycle. Leave a comment on the video and let me know who you'd like to see in a future episode, and without further ado, let's take a closer look at Elijah Arroyo. Arroyo really burst onto the scene in 2024. The first 3 seasons of his career, the production just wasn't there for him. He had 157 yards, 1 touchdown, and just 11 receptions in the first 3 years of his collegiate career combined. But just like Miami as a team, Arroyo burst onto the scene and broke out in 2024. He had 35 receptions for 590 yards and 7 touchdowns for the Hurricanes, and after a pretty dominant week down in Mobile, Arroyo is a player who is starting to generate some serious buzz in this draft class. The first thing that really pops on tape when you're watching Arroyo is the type of athletic upside that he shows. He is 6'4", 251 pounds, and has absolutely freakish length and speed for the position. He is a seam stretcher in the best way possible, and it was on full display at the Senior Bowl. He has excellent build-up speed, and he shows the ability to play in the slot and be a big-time weapon vertically. He has a nice first step and just gets faster as he goes, which is incredibly enticing. That is where he was truly at his best for Miami, and his athletic upside is really untapped and makes him an incredibly enticing prospect at the NFL level. As a receiver, Arroyo has phenomenal hands, but more importantly, I think he shows some really impressive ball tracking abilities. He makes over-the-shoulder grabs routinely, and he does an awesome job of making catches in traffic. He's really good at catching balls in stride and turning them into bigger plays after the catch, and I think that's a skill set that's going to translate seamlessly to the NFL, and for a guy that is a vertical threat, the ball tracking ability is so important, and I love that he has that in his game. I also think that Arroyo can be a really nice player after the catch. He has good quickness and speed as previously mentioned, but I think that the really intriguing part is how creative he is after the catch. He knows where lanes are going to be, and he posted 317 yards after catch in 2024. He also has some really nice contact balance. He is a hard player to tackle and is a strong runner after the catch. When you factor that with his hands and his speed, he could be a dangerous receiving threat at the NFL level. As a route runner, I think it's a bit of a mixed bag. At the Senior Bowl, he showed the ability to separate out of his routes with quickness and create tons of separation. However, when you turn on the tape, Arroyo looks pretty heavy when breaking out of his routes. I don't think he is a bad route runner by any stretch of the imagination. However, I think it is a bit of an unknown for me at this point. The one-on-ones are supposed to favor the wide receivers, so he does get an advantage there. He needs to show the ability to be a more consistent separator at the next level, and that's what I want to see more of because I think it's something that he certainly has in his bag. As a blocker, I also feel like it's a bit of a mixed bag. As a run blocker in space, I actually feel like Arroyo makes some super nice blocks and showed some nice upside. But overall, I think he's really inconsistent there. Play strength is a big inconsistency in all areas of his game, but he shows up as a pass protector. He is not an inline blocker and will likely be limited to playing in a move tight end role at the next level as a result. Once again, I wouldn't say he's a bad blocker, he's a willing blocker, but he needs to be a little bit more consistent at the next level. The biggest issue with Arroyo is his injury history. He isn't a guy who has played a ton of football, and he has a pretty extensive injury history. He had a pretty major knee surgery that caused him to play in just 8 games for his first 2 seasons of college football. He just hasn't been healthy, and the production on paper hasn't been very good. So I think the combine is going to be a big deal for him to see how those medicals look and see how we see him at the next level. We also mentioned the inconsistency in play strength. I think that is shown in contested catch opportunities. He needs to be better against tight coverages. He had a 20% contested catch rate in 2024, and I want to see that number get higher for a player that has all the tools and the size that he has. Arroyo is an incredible athlete and a player who is flying up draft boards. He's going to be a player who I think is going to continue to fly up and could potentially be a player who sneaks into the back end of the first round if his medicals test out well. If he can show the ability to separate, I think the sky is the limit for him in the NFL, and he's my tight end 3 in the draft class, surpassing Harold Fannin, and my number 69 overall prospect. It's just rare to find athletes that can move like this with his size, and I think he can be a legitimate receiving threat at the NFL level. I think that Arroyo's skill set is perfect as a big slot or move tight end. He's not an awesome inline blocker, as we mentioned, and I think he has the ideal athleticism and skill set that NFL teams are looking for to stretch the field and be a vertical threat from the slot. I think he can stretch the seam and be a really intriguing weapon in the NFL in that role. My player comparison for Arroyo is Atlanta Falcons tight end Kyle Pitts. Yes, Pitts has had a disappointing NFL career thus far, but let's not act like he is a bad receiving option. He has his deficiencies, but he is a player who can stretch the seam, has solid hands, is a good athlete, and I think Arroyo has all of those same things. He's not really the blocker Pitts is, and I don't think he's as physical as Pitts was coming out of Florida. But I think Arroyo can be a very similar type of player to Kyle Pitts, maybe a little bit more consistent, but I think if he gets to an offense that knows how to utilize him, he could be a monster in the NFL. Elijah Arroyo is a seam stretcher. He has the speed and upside that you look for from a move tight end, and the tools that he has are absolutely ridiculous. His upside is fantastic, and ultimately, I believe that Elijah Arroyo will be a top 75 pick in the 2025 NFL Draft.